drink too much.
It's a place to do it.
He's a gin drinker. Man, I drank some of that one night. My body was numb.
You know, I'm good with one gin. Two, I get kind of a
It's hard to believe. That's
Good afternoon, everyone. Great to see a good crowd again. Today, the Skodas are going to tell us about their loop travels following after the sauces from the Erie Canal and west. And at the end, I'll tell you what the future ones are. Here you go.
I don't think I need this.
Let's see what people think.
We did start our loop from Marathon at Banana Bay on April 1st, 2021. And it took us till July to get up to the Erie Canal. We went up the East Coast, did some side trips, went to Philadelphia, Washington, D.C. That was, we had a lot of side trips. We could not get into Canada because of COVID. So we did the Lake Champlain all the way up to Canada and then turned around and came back. And then we started the Erie Canal.
Well, thank you all for being here. I see some new cruisers in the group, and one of the things I'd like to mention is that the year before we took off, we did our first cruise with Marathon Yacht Club. And everybody that was on that cruise met us on the Great Loop at somewhere along the way. And in addition to that, they went with us from here to Stewart and then back down from St. Petersburg to here. So they met us both directions. So once you get involved with the cruisers, you're gonna get some lifelong friends. So with that being said, let's start. This is the Erie Canal. You can see it starts at the Hudson River and it ends up in Buffalo over by Niagara Falls in Tonawanda. And at the time, it was the largest artificial canal in North America. So it did open in 1825. Some of the stats on it, the original canal, 40 feet wide, 4 feet deep, biggest boat, 70 tons. There were 90 small locks back then. The new canal, which is 1918, so that's not that new. The width is anywhere from 120 to 200 feet, and then 12 to 14 feet deep and up to 2,000 tons and 36 large locks. Total cost was $96 million at the time. So if you do the canal, you will see that it is 1918. The original canal, all the barges were pulled by mule, so they weren't powered at all. This here is a chart of the locks, all of them, and how much you go up at each lock. You can see there's a peak at Rome at 420 feet above sea level. And then it dips down to Oneida Lake and then it comes back up to Lake Erie. So the total lift is 570 feet. We start the locks at Waterford, and it's a nice town, has 8,000 people. What do you, oh.
My cheat sheet, I can't remember from 5 years ago.
And it was incorporated right after the Revolutionary War in 1794. And that's one of the locks going up. And that's what it looks like once you come out the top. You've got 5 locks in 1.5 miles when you start the Erie Canal. So that's the most locks and the shortest horizontal distance in the world. So it's an interesting flight. It's not complicated, but it is quite interesting. And there's some more shots. Leo, the Wonder Pup there, is in charge of the lines. Now, when you go up the canal, our next stop was going to be Amsterdam, and there's 9 locks along the way. So you start to get used to popping up and down the locks as you go along. And it's a small town of about 10,000. What you'll find is there's a lot of free walls along the Erie Canal, so there's no charge at all for you to tie up. The towns want you to stop and spend some money at the pizzerias or bars or hardware store, whatever you need. Unfortunately, we were stuck here for 8 days because it rained hard and it flooded and they couldn't open up the locks to let the water out. So we were thrown off our schedule, but that's nothing new. If you guys are boaters, you adjust to whatever is thrown at you. Well, right? Now, one of the neat things while we were at Amsterdam is every Wednesday and Saturday, the kids put on a water ski show, so we at least got some free entertainment, and it's right in front of the free wall. We had one grumpy guy that was complaining they were making wakes, but you know,
There's always
one. He looks a lot like you, Paul. The next stop was Little Falls. Again, a nice little town. In case you don't know it, I love the small towns. You'll see that on our loop, we bolted by every big city almost except Chicago. So it was not anything I was really interested in, but that picture on the far right there is Little Falls. And there's Leo again. And then we had a lot of debris after we were able to leave Amsterdam, and that was just a picture of part of what you get to dodge. And then this lock here is completely different than the normal locks with the hinged doors. It's a guillotine setup.
So is it 4 of you and a dog, or 2 of you and a dog?
Three.
3 and a dog.
Yeah.
3 and a dog.
And the only thing I didn't worry about was the dog. The other 2 I was constantly worried about. Leo was a tremendous boat dog. He loved the boat. So he was not an issue at all.
No, you turn the engine on, he runs to the door for his jacket.
For his life jacket, he knows he can't go out and about until he gets his life jacket. Okay, so here we are in Rome. That was that high point I pointed to earlier. It's a big town along the way, population of 32,000. Revere ware, a lot of you folks probably have some or have had some. And then also Pat Riley, Alex Haley, author of Roots, and Francis Bellamy, author of The Pledge of Allegiance, are from there. Oh, you're going too fast. Then we took off and headed down to toward Lake Oneida. It's 21 miles long, 5 miles wide. It's a big lake once you get out there. And the other thing is that the homes are more modest than a lot you know, they're what I grew up with that we used to call summer homes. You know, now you've got a lot of the McMansions on the water that are bigger than their home, whatever it is, but these were true summer homes. Oh, we got out of order there on one of the slides. Well, we were at Winter Haven again for the same issues we had with the flooding. So they stopped us again for 8 days. You'll notice now that our radar arch is completely gone. We had a quote, so during COVID, this was the year during COVID, you weren't allowed into Canada. And the way that we were scheduled to go through the loop was go up the Oswego Canal to Lake Ontario and then down the Welland Canal into Lake Erie. Because of the height restrictions that we were up against going through the western end of the Erie Canal. It drops down to 15.6 is the tightest bridge on the western end. Well, when we left Florida, we had a quote of $700 to move the boat through the canal, and right about a couple days before we got to Winter Haven, they raised the price to over $3,000. So I said, screw you guys, I'm ripping the arch off. So that's why you see the arch is missing, and then we put it back on. So it's actually laying down on the fly bridge up there. The other photo, you might notice that we're missing the flag off the back of the boat, courtesy of this sailboat when he was docking. So the mast, how they have to take it off to go through the canal. Well, when he backed in, he forgot that he had a mast laying there, and luckily he just hit the flag. So now we're starting to get into the tight bridges. That's why we had to take off the bridge. You'll see here, come on. There again, you can see the boat. Lyons was a great little town. It was located right at the lock number 27. They were famous for peppermint oil, so each of these little towns has a claim to fame, and it's quite interesting.
Very friendly, you know,
Yeah.
come up to you.
I don't know if you can see it, the center one with the gazebo there, we walked through at lunchtime, and there's a guy playing music in there. It's just, you know, kind of like Mayberry, you know, it's about as close as you can get nowadays. They were all shucks. You know, they had town greeters that come to the wall where you're tied up and say, do you want a brochure on this and that? Do you need to know where to buy something? Do you need oil? Do you need parts for your boat? They were just a super little town. So they really want your business. And then here's some more tight bridges and locks we're going to. The one thing you'll notice is that the Erie Canal itself is made up of rivers and hand dug initially, and it's quite amazing when you think about it, that guys with shovels dug out this ditch. But where it's straight, that's all the man-made stuff. And when you see it start to curve, they're using rivers like the Mohawk River and that to make their way around. And there's another one.
Oh my God.
At this
Your
point,
little measuring stick.
we took a
Dots.
pencil
Look at that.
and taped
It's got stuff.
to the top And we said, if it hits, don't go further. And he's kneeling there, and then he was laying back just to get through this bridge.
That was amazing.
But it saved me $3,000.
It was a little.
2,300 type of.
So did the high water matter?
At that point.
Yeah. Now, they will adjust the pool, as they call it. If they need to, they can get you a few extra inches to get you through. Like if we pulled up and we couldn't make it, we could radio ahead and they would adjust what was happening there.
So if there's a lot of flooding, then if there's a lot of flooding,
Oh, yeah.
you're subject to a norm, okay.
Yeah, there's a lot of it.
How do they adjust it?
Yeah.
Jeff,
And
that's a
this
good
is
question. We
a-
have a question back here.
Question.
How do they adjust it to get you under it?
They let out water on the
The
lower
spills.
dock.
Oh, in the
Spillway.
lock you're talking
It's
about.
called
Yeah.
spillway.
So, the lock, not the dock. This is an interesting lock here. In Spenceport, they're back to back, and the guy, or the bridge, I should say, the guy raises the bridge here, and then finishes, and then he walks to the other bridge, and you wait, and he goes again. So it's pretty interesting. Those are the rental boats that you can do on the western end. They vary in size and layouts. The Yenix, I know, have rented one, and they had a great time doing it. So that's just something to think about if you're interested in doing part of the Erie Canal and don't want to haul a boat up there.
Yeah.
Lots of farmland, as you can see on the western half. On the picture on the right, you can see that path. Now that path is 360 miles long. You can walk it, ride it, whatever, from Buffalo to Albany. And they have different events throughout the summer where they do the whole route, or they might do from this town to that town type thing. But it's very well laid out and very nicely done.
Was that path originally for donkeys or mules to pull the barges? Okay.
Yeah. Okay, now you can see the next part. So I don't know if any of you guys are familiar with Nebo, but I have a little unit that I put on my boat, and every time the boat moves, it maps it out for you. So you get daily reports as well as a monthly summary. So for the month of August, you can see that we moved the boat 16 times. We did 77 hours underway, 664 miles, average 9 knots, maximum speed recorded was 16 knots. So we went from Niagara Falls or Tonawanda to the Upper Peninsula of Michigan. Well, here's the first visit we had with MYC members. This is Tom and Sue Reese's hotel, the Red Coach Inn, that was bid on and won by Peggy and Gary Butts for a weekend or several days up there. This is the falls directly across from the Red Coach Inn, and there's a little layout of it. As I stated here, Don and Dee were able to drive in, and we had a great time. Tom took us up in his airplane, and we circled around the falls, again, Canada was closed to us, but he got all the requirements done for him to fly into their airspace, etc. He has to stay above 3,500 feet. The helicopters are below 3,500 feet, and they have an exact pattern that they have to follow when you're out there. But it was quite beautiful. It was much better than the pictures show. And if you get a chance, Tom's the ultimate host. He knows what he's doing. And this is Youngstown Country Club, a yacht club, I should say. And then Clif and Dee, we took a ride on Tom's Boston Whaler up the Niagara River toward the falls. We have 2 members here that are members there, Tom and Sue, and then Tim and Jerry O'Connell are members there as well. So we've got some peeps up there. There's Clif.
You notice he didn't put any pictures of him in this.
I don't do selfies. But she is exhausted from Tom running her all over the place while we were up there. And we had to Dunkirk, New York. There was a little yacht club there that we...
And they took our Burgee. They wanted our Burgee so bad that we said, okay, here, and we gave it to them.
Yeah. But it was a nice, it was more of a boat club than a yacht club, but the guys and gals were super friendly there. The middle picture is a picture of Buffalo, and then that's the Dunkirk Lighthouse. And then there's a sign that you don't see down here, so I took a picture of it. But Presque Isle Bay is just a super spot for boaters and that going out to Lake Erie. And Admiral Perry fought out of this bay in the War of 1812. So there's tons of history, especially when you go up the East Coast and you pull into all the South Carolina, Virginia, all those towns all have something. And then we took off for Cleveland. That was one of our longer stretches, 101 miles. We ended up at the Hard Rock, or not the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. There's the baseball stadium, the city skyline. They have a huge breakwater that's 5.5 miles long that protects the front of Cleveland. So it is a great place. There's Clif getting their Elvis fix. So you can watch all the inductions. So if you wanted to see Pink Floyd or whoever being inducted, you just punch in and put the headphones on and you can watch the ceremony. And this is a view of the marina right there. Back here is just part of that long breakwater that runs across. Now this on the Great Lakes is probably my favorite stop, and it's just a great, quaint little town. You know, it has all the canals like you have down here, and they got a beach. There's their lighthouse. It's a little downtown. This is Bill and Patty V's house on Lake Erie. They were boat neighbors of Jack's and ours at Legacy Harbor. up in Fort Myers, and so we've stayed in touch, but he came out to visit, and then invited us over to his house. That was originally a 11-bedroom house that he converted to 6 bedrooms, but the thing is huge.
And it's for 2.
Yeah, there's 2 people in there, yeah, but they have some dogs. Then we move on to Sandusky after we spent a few days there. Some of you folks might have been to Cedar Point.
Never.
Never been, but.
So you skip that.
Too many
Yeah, no, I don't like anything where you have to stand in line. So I'm anti-line. But we were there for several days. Nice little town. And we started to take off, but Erie can kick up pretty quick. And we started heading out to the islands off of Sandusky there, which is Putin Bay and
Yeah, Putin Bay.
a few others. And we turned around and came back in, so I got.
And it's a good thing.
Yeah, I got sick while we were there. I actually got sick in Vermilion at Bill and Patty's house, but you know, like all good guys, you gotta wait 3-4 days before you check into the hospital. You don't wanna rush
Now,
into it.
the funny part about this, it's not really funny, but when we came in, we didn't have a car. And he's having chest pains and I'm like, oh my God, cannot find the dock master, running around like a goofball. Saw a group of people, so I ran in and I said, where's the dock master? And he's off today. And so I go, okay, I think my husband's having a heart attack because he was having chest pain. So the one lady ran out, she was the doctor. And the other one said, oh, come on, they're just joking. They were having a clinic on the AED machines and all that, and they thought it was a fake. And so they didn't come out, and then she came back and she said, oh yes, we need to get the ambulance, but they wouldn't let me go in the ambulance with them. I have no car, no way to get to the hospital. And this guy says to me, well, I'll take you. And so some guy, nice young couple took me to the hospital to get him, but they said, oh, we're sorry, we didn't come out because we thought it was a fake.
Let's run with the AED machine to start Jack.
She did come running.
So was it a heart attack?
No, but it was a problem. But he was better.
I was fine when I was driving the boat or lying down. So, I don't know. Whatever.
What are your symptoms? Not driving the boat.
Then we took off when we finally got out. These are pictures of some of the islands just off of Sandusky. And we went to Grosse Isle, and that's our first stop in Michigan.
Right there?
And it was Ford Yacht Club. And the neat thing about that, it's on a little peninsula there. They have 175 acres. So little bigger than us. Which makes it, you know, their possibilities are endless as to, they wanna, you know, they were doing a pool and some other stuff at that point. But they had winter boat storage, they had all sorts of stuff for their members there, but it was very nice. And that's Leo enjoying some grass, and Clif always takes sunrises and sunsets, so that's one. And so that was Leo's 26th date.
Wow.
Then we took off from there and headed up the Detroit River. And this is the bridge that connects Windsor to Detroit. And there's a picture of downtown Detroit. We saw a lot of factories along that section of the river. They weren't as bustling as they were in the 70s, but they were still operational. So, where's Marty? There she's hiding. Have you ever been to Detroit?
Just once or twice.
Okay, that's good.
My office was in the building on the far right of the right-hand picture, but it's much bigger than that.
Oh. Okay. This, I believe this boathouse is at Grosse Point. We have some other people that might be familiar with Grosse Point here. And very lovely, exclusive area on Lake St. Clair. Just super homes, and the water, you know, after being on the canals and rivers coming up to the Great Lakes, the water in here, as you can tell, is blue. It's nice and clear. That was probably the most surprising thing to us as we traveled the Great Lakes, you know, is just how clear the water was, especially the further you went north.
Cold will do that.
And we had some great, we had some great days traveling. That picture is just when we got onto Lake Huron. The wave sets weren't anywhere near as tight where you're, the periods between the swells as they were on Erie. Erie can be a real choppy deal. And, you know, it's more photos of Port Sanilac, and there, we got a guy helping out another guy, pulling them in. Harrisville was good, had great breakwater protection. The DNR of Michigan is second to none. You know, the Department of Natural Resources, they have a great website. You log on, you reserve your slip, you pay for your slip. They're usually $1 a foot. I would be shocked if they're $2 a foot now. And they're all clean, run well. They're happy to see you. I can't say enough good things about Michigan and the way they run their marinas. Then we headed up to Alpena, the second biggest city in northern Michigan, population 11,000. So we were with all the people. Another couple from Legacy Harbor, the Caricos. We had dinner with them. They spend their summers up there. What's interesting to note is this is Thunder Bay, and there's a big peninsula that goes out that's just covered with trees. And that's where they got most of the lumber to rebuild after the Chicago fire. So this area was founded with, I think it's 15 lumber companies, and then later on the lumber companies noticed that everything you needed to make cement was in that area. And so they formed this cement company, which at one point was the largest cement producer in the world. And there's downtown. We also went out on a boat tour in Thunder Bay because there's 200 sunk boats in Thunder Bay. This was a super bustling port after they put the Erie Canal in. So a lot of them coming in and out of the port sank, so. And then they have a glass bottom boat tour, which all our photos didn't come out very good. Then we headed up to Presque Isle. I'm probably pronouncing it wrong, but in French it means almost an island. So, come on. Wow, we shot through a bunch there. Yeah, okay. There's the old lighthouse was 1840. You know, I thought this looked like Thoreau's Walden Pond up there. But that area of the country is just super beautiful, and I don't have a picture of it, but like in the marina there, there'd be guys that have $15,000 worth of fishing rods just sitting on the back of their boat, and nobody touches it, you know. So we thought, it wouldn't last very long in Chicago, but it's just remarkable area. You start to see a lot of the freighters up there. And we went to Sheboygan, and there's Clif, and she found out the water is cold. And there's a sunset at Sheboygan. And then we went to, we went to Mackinac, and you can see there's Bonnie and Loyal. They met us up there. That was very nice of them to make the hike over to see us. They have places in the Upper Peninsula and near Kalamazoo, so I'm going to switch to this. But we had a great time. If you don't know it, Loyal is quite the cyclist, and he took us on a tour. Everything is horses up there. So these horses that you see there are between 2,200 and 2,500 pounds. There's 5 veterinarians on the island. There's 1 doctor. You know, there's more horses than doctors up there. There's the Grand Hotel from the water as we're coming in. They built it in 93 days. They had a $1 million bonus if they could get it done in 90, and they missed it. But, I mean, it's a huge place, 385 rooms, and it's world famous for that 660-foot porch where you can sit out there, have a cocktail, and overlook the water. And there's the young couple over there, Bonnie and Loyal. Now, my brother flew in to Mackinac Island and then joined us on the trip over to Beaver Island. So now we're getting closer to Marty's neck of the woods there. But we didn't have any severe weather going there. We did have bad weather the last day in Mackinac, or the last evening. The waves lined up so they came straight into the marina. So Cliff and I got a hotel room, and Kristen and the dog, they were on the boat. But again, Leo could care less. I mean, he was the best at that kind of stuff. And here's a picture of us approaching Beaver Island, and and there's the car ferry that goes back and forth. So Beaver Island's way bigger than Mackinac Island. They have cars and all sorts of stuff, you know, so it's really, really nice little neat island community. Then we took off for the Upper Peninsula, got a little splashy, not terrible or anything, but Manistee is where we were headed, and that was as far north as we would go on this trip. So, you know, I didn't realize at first that it was further north than Mackinac Island. You know, you would think you're coming down into Lake Michigan or whatever, but that's not the way it works out. So then we start our trip down into Chicago the 1st of September. So we didn't move that much in September because we spent 2 weeks in
2.5 weeks.
Yeah, we were 2.5 weeks sitting in Chicago. And then we spent quite a bit of time in Door County. So this is Door County there. So for you fishermen out there, there's 4 different types of salmon that spawn in the river there: Chinook, coho, steelhead, and pink. And whitefish is still commercially fished up there, so they do quite a bit. And the beaches in that are super. And yes, that's a real outhouse that they have on the beach for use for the sunbathers. So. And then we just went down a little ways to Fayette Historic State Park. This is a great spot. You would love it, Jim. This is the one that has no lights within 20 miles at night. It's
Look at the sky.
It's really something else. That's really the best I've ever seen the Milky Way was there at night.
Were you anchoring a lot in some of these places?
We had the dog.
So Olive Murray.
Yeah, we anchored 3 or 4 nights. But, yeah, you'll see, you got the limestone cliffs there. So Fayette used to be a pig iron factory back in the day, and then they converted it in 1959 to a state park, and they still have all the old buildings and that. So this is the superintendent's house and kitchen, and all this is free. There's no charge. That's the furnace there, and then that's the hotel where the workers stayed. It was a 10 cents a day deal. And then from there, we went to Washington Island, which is just off of Door County. And their symbol's the coffee pot, and that's their symbol of hospitality. The main thing they have there is a Coast Guard station. I don't really recommend it as a stop, other than it's a stop. And Egg Harbor is in Door County. It's a very nice marina, well protected, very well run. They were having all sorts of trouble with help. They couldn't get any help to work, so again, this is during COVID, so the restaurants were extremely slow, and they all had signs up that, you know, please be patient, we're shorthanded, etc. But it's a great area. How many of you folks have been to Door County? Have you? Yeah, it, for Chicago, that's like
New England.
their big weekend deal to shoot up to Door County. And on the left is the traditional fish fry, and then they just have tons of great parks, and there's the famous goats on top of Al Johnson's restaurant. He started that in 1970, and it's been a staple ever since. And just looking out into the Bay area, Green Bay. So Door County goes up, and then on the northwest side is Green Bay, and on the east side is Lake Michigan. And then we went down to Sturgeon Bay. We had to pick up supplies, so what we do is we use St. Brendan's mail forwarding service. It's out of Green Cove Springs, and you send them an email and say, we're gonna be at such and such a marina on such and such a date, please send all my mail there, or packages, or whatever. So this was one of the stops that we had sent stuff to originally, so we swung by there. This canal that goes across connects Green Bay to Lake Michigan, so it's a shortcut so the ships don't have to go up over the top of Door County, and very nice. And of course you can see they have some nice homes along the way there. And so we had a forecast of good weather, so we skipped a stop in Sheboygan and went right to Port Washington. And it's a neat little town. There happened to be a farmer's market going on. My older brother and his wife came up from Chicago, and we visited for the day as well while we were there. And this prop there is kind of neat. It was off of one of the car ferries, 13 feet tall, and it's the biggest prop that I've seen out of the water just standing alone, and 13 feet's pretty big. Yeah. So when you're standing next to it, and then here's just downtown. So if you want to know where I got my blue suede shoes and stuff, it's from Port Washington. That's where they make them. So, okay, here's a question for you. So you got the Great Lakes is basically 95,000 square miles, and the average person uses 88.5 gallons per day. If the overall level changed by 1 inch, how many people in the United States and Canada could that support for a year? Dave?
Mr.
I think, is that an
Engineer.
eastbound train or westbound?
North-south.
A million.
You're only off by 50 million.
Wow.
It's just how vast that water supply is. It's just huge. So, and from Port Washington, we went down to Kenosha. It was the worst trip we ever had. So that's what got Clif inspired to say we need stabilizers on the next boat. There were little crappy waves, nothing big, but they're just hitting the side of the boat the whole way down. It was just the worst.
Did Leo get sick?
Pardon me?
Did the dog get sick?
My
No,
dog could
just
care
me.
less. No, like I said, I don't worry about the dog. He knew what he was doing. Yeah. And then now we came down to Chicago. You wanna do these, Cliff?
That's all right.
You sure?
I'm good.
I don't know what we're looking at here.
Chicago.
Here,
Chicago.
we're in Belmont
That's
Harbor
Belmont
here.
Harbor, that's where we,
Yeah, we're in Belmont Harbor. That's the Chicago skyline. And then, this is where we're entering the Chicago River. And there's all sorts of little bridges you go through. If you get to Chicago and you don't have your boat, take the architectural tour. It's well worth it, and they'll tell you a lot more stuff than I'll tell you. Again, this is entering into the Chicago River. Which building is that, Cliff? Tribune Tower. She was born in Chicago. I was in the suburbs, so I don't know. And then
this was the first time I went down the Chicago River.
No.
I did a booze cruise on it. I don't remember
I don't remember.
But there's just all sorts of great buildings and that, and it's really neat when you're sitting in your boat or on the architectural tour boat. Every relative that ever came to Chicago, my dad brought him down to Chicago for the architectural tour. That was a must stop.
Merchandise Mart,
Yep.
Merchandise Mart.
Kennedy, money.
Anything? Marina Towers.
Marina Towers.
Yeah. I forgot what movie they drove that car off of.
Blues Brothers.
Blues Brothers.
Yeah. They went, because the bottom part is parking, and they were going around, and then they shot out. And that concludes this section of the Great Loop. So we still have from Chicago back to Marathon. Do you guys have any questions?
I wanna hear the Erie Canal song.
I know, that's what I was thinking, the same thing, it should be
The
played.
Erie Canal song?
Oh, you'll always know your neighbor, you'll always know your pal if you've ever navigated on the Erie Canal.
Very nice.
Everybody down, no bridge, 'cause we're coming to town. If you ever know your neighbor, you'll always know your pal if you've ever navigated on the Erie Canal.
That was excellent, Ellie, thank you. Yes,
So what are the fees for the logs through the whole Erie Canal?
0.
Oh, so far.
Where the what?
Yeah, there was no fee
So
that
cheap
during.
side tie and no fee to go through the
Yeah,
logs.
now, there were some towns that would charge 50 cents a foot, so that boat, they would charge 25. She got allergic to fees. You trained her well, Norm. But, yeah, no, and, the cost of everything on the Erie was way,
Not
it was
piece price, not
it was a
cheap.
percentage of what it was here. And then, of course, compared to California, it was half price, yeah. So
Great, now it's not, honey.
Yeah, and they're all very friendly people. I mean, that's the nice part,
Midwest.
so.
What was the water temperature? You just kept saying cold.
No, that was around 68 in August, so it wasn't terrible.
That's terrible.
Yeah.
60 is terrible.
Did you
Yeah.
ever get into Lake Superior?
No,
Okay, 'cause
But
I was
that's
gonna
on
say,
the
that's
list.
really cold.
yeah, that's on our list. Yes, Dan?
How much commercial traffic is still on the Erie Canal?
None.
Commercial
Any
traffic.
commercial traffic still on the Erie Canal?
We didn't see anything that was commercial on the Erie. Great Lakes, of course,
Yeah.
is a lot different, but there's nothing commercial at all.
So is it all ore carriers still?
Pardon me?
Ore carriers?
Yes, yeah. When we were up near Mackinac, you could see them coming out of Superior and headed through Huron, yeah. Yes, Dave?
So what was your biggest challenge or difficulty with the trip?
The radar, the radar maps.
The dog.
Yeah, I
Oh,
mean,
the dog was the easiest.
the dog is,
Finding
he,
fuel or food?
he went 3 days
Oh,
without getting off the boat.
wow, boy.
Did you have like a little piece of astroturf for
He
him?
would challenge you, Dave. There you go. Let's see who can hold out the longest.
And you can go.
I want a dog like that.
Yeah, no, yeah, it really wasn't,
We had one
too bad. You gotta wait for, on the East Coast on the way up, I lost the head on the, starboard engine. So we went 300 miles with one engine, but that's not part of this. And then we had it rebuilt in Norfolk. So that was, from a mechanical standpoint, that was the biggest deal. But if you wait, you know, for weather, and if you read ahead and know how many bridges you have, how many locks you have, then you can plan your day so you're not panicking, you know, when you get there. Yes?
What time of year did you hit Lake Champlain till you got to Chicago? So that you were,
We were in Lake Champlain July 4th.
so that was kind of late, in my opinion.
Yeah.
for the
Well, we
season.
kept hoping that they would open Canada. That's why we were just hanging around up there
Oh.
to see if they would open it. But they never opened it up while we were there, so we need to go back up. Okay, well, thank you very much.
Well, thanks so much, that was really fun. I will say, when we were in Chicago for my induction into the Hall of Fame, I took the architecture tour of the Chicago River. And what struck me was the influence of the railroads on the architecture. All of the buildings had to be built over the railroads to accommodate them.
Yep.
Which was really interesting. Anyway, thanks again. Our next talk is April 7th, and that's gonna be Georgie Sage talking about her trip from, I think, Alabama to Texas to the Panama Canal. And then the Skodas will come again on May 5th and continue their trip through the lake. And, yep, and I am accumulating a list of people who will be talking next season, but if you have an adventure to tell us about, please let me know and I'll put you on the schedule. Thanks.
Thanks, Judy.